Have you ever looked at the market and just wondered why some brands seem to totally own it, they're everywhere, while other brands that seem just as good, they just fizzle out? What's their secret?
Well, it's really not magic. It comes down to strategy. And the absolute heart of a winning strategy is deeply understanding your competition, who they really are, how they operate, and, yeah, how you can outplay them. So let's get into it.
All right, first things first, you've got to know who you're actually competing against. And believe me, this is way trickier than it sounds, because it's so easy to fall into this little trap called competitor myopia.
This is what happens when you get so laser-focused on the rivals you see every day that you get completely blindsided by a threat you never, ever saw coming. And the classic and kind of painful example of this, Encyclopaedia Britannica.
Okay, so for over 200 years, Britannica was the absolute king of information. No question. They thought their competition was, other companies printing these massive, expensive book sets. But while they were duking it out with other publishers, the real threat was sneaking up from a totally different direction. Technology. First, it was a $50 CD-ROM from Microsoft, and then came the knockout blow. Free information everywhere, on the internet. Their whole business model just became obsolete because they were looking in the wrong direction.
So, to avoid that kind of disaster, you need to think bigger. The industry concept is that narrow view, Ford only worrying about Toyota. But the market concept, that's where the magic is. It forces you to think like your customer. From this angle, Coca-Cola isn't just up against Pepsi. Nope, it's competing with juice, tea, coffee, even the water from your tap. That is a much more realistic picture of the battlefield.
Okay, so once you've mapped out the real competition, the next big question is, what's your game plan? And your strategy? Well, it depends entirely on where you sit in the market. Are you the king of the hill, or are you the scrappy underdog trying to climb it?
So generally speaking, any market kind of breaks down like this. You've got the market leader, the big one, holding about 40% of the market. Then there's the market challenger, a hungry runner-up, always fighting for a bigger piece. The market follower, they're more cautious, happy to hold their spot and not rock the boat. And finally, my favorite, the market nicher, the specialist who serves a small, specific slice of the market that everyone else is ignoring.
Now, each of these positions has its own playbook, its own set of winning moves. So let's break down the game plan for each player, starting right at the top.
If you're the leader, we're talking Gatorade and sports drinks, Microsoft and software, your job is pretty simple, but it is not easy. Stay number one. You're the one everyone follows, but that also means you have a giant target painted on your back.
So to stay on top, you've got three main jobs. First, make the whole pie bigger. Because hey, you get the biggest slice of any new growth. Arm & Hammer did this brilliantly. They were just for baking, right? Until they started pushing baking soda as a fridge deodorizer. Boom, a whole new market. Second, you have to defend your turf with constant innovation. And third, you can try to grow your own share, but you got to be careful not to get too big and attract legal trouble.
All right, now if you're the runner-up, a market challenger like Pepsi is to Coke, your playbook is a whole lot more aggressive. You're in a fight to grow your share, and that means you have to decide who to attack and exactly how you're going to do it.
You've got a couple of options here. A frontal attack is just what it sounds like, a head-on battle. You match the leader's product, their price, their ads. It's a brutal war that takes a ton of resources. A much smarter move, especially for a startup, is a flank attack. You hit the competition where they're weak, or you find a gap in the market they've totally ignored. But there's another really powerful option, not even on this slide. The bypass attack. This is where you just go around them. Pepsi did this beautifully by buying Tropicana, attacking Coke in a whole new category where Coke was much weaker. Genius.
Now the last two players, they're playing very different games. Followers, they don't want to fight. They just want to hold on to their piece by copying or adapting what the leader does, but without all the expensive innovation. Nichers, on the other hand, they play their own game entirely. They ignore the big market and instead become the undisputed leader of a tiny, overlooked one. I mean, think about Logitech. They became a massive company by completely dominating the little niche of computer mice before they did anything else. It can be an incredibly profitable way to play.
Okay, theory's great and all, but let's see how this all clicks together in a real-world story. This one really shows you how a small player can go up against a giant and actually win.
So picture this, a small, independent coffee shop called The Daily Grind, run by an owner named Maria. And on every single corner, there's a Starbucks, the undisputed market leader. Maria knew that a head-on fight over price or speed would be, well, suicide. So what could she do?
She decided to become a nicher. She looked at Starbucks' flank, their weak spot. They were fast, they were consistent, sure, but they weren't a cozy community hub. So Maria didn't just sell coffee, she sold a third place, a spot between work and home that felt like your own. She started hosting open mic nights, she featured local artists, she learned her regulars' names. She served a niche, people who were craving connection, and she served them better than anyone else could. She wasn't trying to steal Starbucks' customers, she was creating her own loyal tribe.
Maria's story really brings us to the final and honestly the most important takeaway from this whole explainer. This is the one thing you absolutely have to remember above all else.
So here it is. While it's so important to watch your rivals, a company that is obsessed with them is always on the defensive. It's always reacting. It never carves its own path. A truly great company is customer-centered. It's focused on creating new, real value for people. And that, right there, is the only real key to long-term success.
And you know, no one has said this better than Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos. This single idea is really at the heart of building a business that doesn't just get by, but one that truly thrives. It's all about creating your own game, not just getting better at playing someone else's. So as you think about your own business, or your project, or heck, even your personal brand, the question isn't just, how do I beat the other guy? The real question is, what is the unique, undeniable value that I and only I am going to create for my customers? Find the answer to that, and you've found your path to winning.